Hello, dear listeners of the podcast Druga, pita, and welcome to our third episode. Joining me today is Ms. Bojana Urumova, country representative of the Council of Europe in Bosnia and Hercegovina. Ms. Bojana, good morning.
Good morning, team. Thank you for inviting me.
It's a pleasure to have you. So, first, I'd like to ask you a bit about your experience in working in Bosnia and Herzegovina. How were you welcomed by the community, and can you remember any positive stories of cooperation that you've had with civil society?
Well, I received a very warm welcome here in Bosnia and Herzegovina. It's a place where I very quickly started to feel at home. I suppose because of my own background coming from the Balkan region, I felt very comfortable culturally speaking, and I'm fortunate also to speak the language so I can communicate directly with people. And in terms of what you asked about civil society, through the work of the Office of the Council of Europe in Sarajevo, our projects have a lot of connections with civil society in all the stages of the project. So in the conception, into the implementation, follow-up and monitoring, to use the project methodology jargon, if you will. But civil society, it means groups of people who are organized around a particular cause. So maybe youth groups, groups who are interested in protection of the environment, that's a very important issue these days, or groups that are interested in promoting the rights of particular people from different communities and so on. So we certainly have very close contact with the civil society here in Bosnia and Herzegovina.
So you say you're working with young people. Could you give us a few positive stories or experience that you've had with young people? What are they like? What are their attitudes towards any change in your work?
Well, actually, just I walk by this school every day on my way to work, so I do see a lot of young people on the streets. I think the young people and the children in Bosnia and Herzegovina are very nice. I think children in this country and the kids that I see in Sarajevo that I cross on my path are very lively, playful, but also very polite. I have noticed that. So there's a good, education and also upbringing in the sense that they are taught the proper values, how to behave towards one another, and I hope that this is preserved. It's a very precious thing to grow up with, to learn how to treat one another with kindness, to treat also older people with respect, and so on. So I'm very happy with my connection and observations of kids here. Through the work with younger people, I don't know if I could mention people under 18, but certainly I have come into contact because we have an education project. And last year, in September, I think it was, there was, or at the end of the summer in August, there was an activity on the slopes of Trebević mountain with an award-winning teacher, Vedran Zubic, I suppose you know him as well, who brought together a group of young people, high school students from different parts of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and taught them, gave sort of a presentation directly about the history of Sarajevo, also the geography of the surrounding hills, and told many stories from this place where you can overlook the city about this place and the people who have lived here. And also some events which have happened. For instance, we were close to the bobsled course from the 1984 Winter Olympics in Sarajevo, which are now being commemorated with the 40th anniversary.
Yes, of course. And so, well, I'd like to ask you now about the main topic of our conversation. So, building bridges between youth in post-conflict zones.
Okay.
You work a lot, well, as you just said, you work a lot with young people. And so, did you see any positive change made by different policymakers in actually bringing youth and other people together and so building that sort of unity in Bosnia and Herzegovina?
Well, one such example was through this activity that I mentioned that was bringing together kids from different parts of Bosnia and Herzegovina, which or who otherwise would not have had the chance to interact with one another. So that's an example. However, I believe that in order to have a more permanent effect, there needs to be a policy decided by decision makers that kids will be constantly in contact with one another. And it is important to have that from the earliest stages of the education system. I remember when I was a child, actually I was in nursery school, I lived in England, in Manchester and in Cambridge. And there I came into contact first with the English language, but also with kids who came from other parts of the world, including dark-skinned kids. I had a friend whose parents were English and Ghanaian from Ghana. And I was playing with these kids already at an early age, so I was used to interacting with people who came from a different country. I myself came from a different country, then it was Yugoslavia when I went to England. I first tried to speak Macedonian to the kids and it didn't work, nobody understood me. So I think it's very important for kids to be brought together from a very early age, and I think they quickly can start learning from one another and getting used to differences and actually appreciating these differences. And whereas separating the kids in different groups is something which should be avoided. It should be, of course, possible for the kids to keep their language. I never forgot Macedonian, even though I learned English. But it is important for them to also be able to interact with one another, not just on an ad hoc, once in a while basis, but continuously throughout their education years.
And did you experience that you, as you just mentioned, that you never forgot Macedonian and that it took you some time to actually get into the British culture? Is that something that maybe powered your work forward, because you've been with the Council of Europe for many years, I can't even remember how many, and is that something that was sort of a guiding experience?
Well, that was just my life path, I was exposed at a very early age to different countries. I have lived in many different places in the course of my life, in the course of my Council of Europe career, which, as you pointed out, has been rather long. I have also lived and worked in different places, including Strasbourg, Yerevan, and now Sarajevo.
So is the attitude of young people in all the countries that you work, so in Strasbourg, Yerevan, in Sarajevo, always the same towards is there a consensus among young people in all the countries you work with towards maybe change or willing to do something better? Do we all look, or do we all think the same way, or are we specific by region?
I think there are cultural differences, but I also think that young people also tend to go through many similar things, and they have similar concerns. They want to have a sense of belonging, to have friends, to be valued by their friends, and to be understood also. I think, you know, growing up, kids often go through similar experiences. Yes, the environments can be different, but I think there's something special and unique that can be gained and learned from all of these places where I have lived, and I think that young people, I think there is an investment in each of those places in the youth, in Armenia, Bosnia, Hercegovina, in France, Strasbourg, where the Council of Europe is located.
So looking forward, what would you maybe characterize as the key priorities in actually, you know, building bridges and, well, bringing cultures together in the next period?
In terms of what the Council of Europe's priorities are, I think that the Council of Europe last year it had a summit in Reykjavik in Iceland, which is also a very beautiful and unique place, where the heads of state and government came together of the Council of Europe. They came up with a declaration on how to move forward, to recommit to human rights. And also one of the topics that came up is the environment. And the environment is a question which needs to be really looked at closely. I think now we're experiencing a very mild winter, a very warm winter. There's not much snow on the mountains, as I understand. So this is something which concerns all of us and goes maybe beyond these differences that we have. That you know, everybody has a different language that they grew up with, and so on and so forth. But the environment is something that I think we can agree to have as a goal for us to protect, that it's in everybody's interest beyond any sort of other division, to make sure that we can live in good conditions and also preserve the earth, preserve biodiversity, preserve the clean rivers, preserve clean water, and so on for generations to come. So I think that is one way we can build bridges, by agreeing to work together on topics which are of concern to all of us.
And so in the end, so as the last question, I'd like to ask you, do you have any specific messages or anything you would like to say to the youth of Bosnia and Herzegovina right now?
Well, I would just like to encourage kids and youth in Bosnia and Herzegovina to keep being as beautiful as you are, and keep being curious and learning more, and working to keep this world better. I'm not sure that the adults have always left you with the best possible conditions for you to continue to thrive, but use your energy, your curiosity, and your intelligence to try to make things better, and above all, be kind to one another.
Thank you. On that note, thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear listeners, and see you next time.